what is storytelling? All right. I would just like to hear from you. What do you think is storytelling? And there's this saying that everyone has a story, right? So, but what do you think is storytelling? So anybody can talk, please.
Okay, hello, can I say something?
Yes.
Okay, so a story, or rather storytelling, is a graphic representation of events, either in the past or in the future, in such a way that whoever is listening or reading literally lives the moment as though he was there when it was happening.
Awesome. Sorry, who spoke? I can't see because I'm presenting, so I can't see anybody. I can't see anything on my screen. So who spoke, please?
Okay, this is Grace. Grace from Calabar.
Oh, Grace. Oh, Grace will be right. All right, thank you, Grace. So anyone want to add?
Hi, this is Sheung. I want to say that storytelling is a process of using facts and narrative to communicate something to your audience. That's what I think storytelling is.
Awesome, awesome. All right, so maybe one more person. Can you guys speak, please? So let's give everybody equal chances. Any guy wants to speak? Want to add something to what storytelling is? Okay, so I think we'll just go ahead. So I have a brief definition here, which is in line with what you guys have said, Sheona agrees. Storytelling is the interactive art of using words, facts, actions, graphics, etc. to communicate information to your target audience while encouraging the audience's imagination. All right, so I think it was Sheona that said that. So when you're telling a story, for example, the person you're telling a story to should be able to see things the way you want them to see. So if you want them, so in your story, if you want them to see a poor village in Calabar, for example, so through your story, they should be able to imagine that kind of scenario when you're telling your story. All right. So there are several elements of a story. I didn't study storytelling or communication in school, but I know that there are several elements of a story. So if you are in Nollywood, for example, you might have your own kind of elements for your script writing or the script you are giving to. But I just want to highlight three elements that I think are key. So we have the plot, you have the characters, and you have the theme, right? So the plot defines what a story is all about, what happened in the story, okay? The characters, you're talking about the people in the story, people who were affected in the story. So if you're talking about, if you're writing a story, for example, about NSAS, we all talk about the people that were killed, the people that started the protests, people that were arrested. So those could form part of your characters in such a story. Then the theme. So every story must have a theme, right? So it says the underlying meaning of a story. It is the message the writer is trying to convey through the story. So what kind of theme are you portraying? Is it like, are you talking about betrayal, for example? Are you talking about denial? Are you talking about government neglect of a particular community? So your story must have a theme, okay? So I talk about the plot, talk about the characters, and talk about the theme. So why do we need storytelling as, I'm sure everyone here works in not-profits or runs a not-profit. So why do we need storytelling as a not-profit leader? All right, basically it's to crowdsource support from your audience, right? So if you're talking about crowdsourcing support from the audience, you're looking at to encourage donor support. So maybe you're targeting some certain donors, so you want them to support your cause, to give money to your organization. Fine, it may not be money, it could be non-cash support. So if you are trying to reach Microsoft, for example, and you want them to give you Microsoft Office tools for free, so that's also grant or that's donation, but non-cash donation to spur people to take action, which is basically what this fellowship is about. So you want people to take action, all right? You remember we talking about active citizenship. So you want people to take action to support your cause, maybe to sign a petition or to help you share your tweets and all that. Then to create visibility and highlight the impact of your work. So that could be the reason why you are telling your story. Or to advocate for an issue. So if you, I don't know, if for those of you that usually watch Sunrise on channels, so I think I watched the one for, today is Monday, it should be like Wednesday or Thursday, when women were talking about why they were going to camp at the National Assembly. I don't know if anyone watched that. All right. So they came on Channels TV to tell their story, why they want legislation to go back to those bills that they rejected about having more women representative in the National Assembly, why a woman should be able to give her husband, a foreign husband, citizenship and all that. So I'm sure we all know those stories or know those issues. So now the women said they want to go and camp at National Assembly. They'll bring their stoves, they'll bring stuff and be there until National Assembly listen to them. So they have the story, all right? But they needed to create visibility for their story and advocate to the National Assembly to pass those bills, to say yes to those bills. So they had to go on TV to tell their stories, all right? Then also, it could also be to encourage behavior change among your project communities or beneficiaries. For those of you that work in communities, maybe you want people to come out and vote. For example, maybe in this community, people don't like voting, or in this community, people don't like using toilet, put it this way. So you want them to change that behavior. So you have to tell a story, you have to paint a scenario. So your story sometimes could be fiction, could be non-fiction, all right? So non-fiction, if you have a first-hand experience or have someone who have a first-hand experience of how maybe not using the toilet affected his or her life negatively. So you want to project that and see if people will listen to that story and have a behavioral change. Okay, so that could be why you want to tell your story. And there are several factors that will improve your storytelling. There are more than this, but I just have a few here to highlight things you should consider when telling your story. First, use the right language. So if you go to, let's say, for those of you that know Abuja very well, if you go to Dobi village or Paikokore community in Abuja, those communities speak Gbagi. So if you go there and start speaking Queen's English because you studied abroad and all that, you will lose half of your audience, right? Because they don't understand what you are saying. So use the right language when you're telling your story. If it's a public, you're putting something out on Twitter, for example, that means you need to speak well, all right? And if you want people to empathize with you, empathize with your story, then don't use shorthands. So speak well, even though Twitter has limits, so you can do a trend on Twitter, but use the right language. So depending on your audience, then use of graphics. So when you tell a story, as far as possible, try and use graphic. Either you're using an infograph that talks about facts and give statistics, or you have a short video you have created. Personally, I like videos. For video speaks volume. So you can do a 1 minute video or 2 minute video that will speak more than if you have written a story of 3 pages, okay? If you don't have a video, then use an image. Image also communicates a lot. So I've seen this video, so I've seen image of people talking about gender-based violence or rape, and you see an image, black background, you see a young girl. From the picture, you could tell that, oh, this young girl needs help, all right? Then I think she had her hands covering her mouth, something like that. I've seen that image in several places. So that image speaks volume, all right? Then also the length of your story can also affect your storytelling. Don't talk too much. If it's a pitch, if it's an oral pitch, don't say too much that you lost your audience, they start falling asleep, okay? If it's in words, don't make it too long. Imagine reading, if I have to read a 5-page story, I think I may even forget what was in the first page. So make your story short and catchy. If it's a video, make it catchy, all right? If it's an infograph, don't make it too long, all right? Then also reaching the right audience. So if you are advocating for, let's say, like as these women were doing at the National Assembly, so you have to choose your medium of your storytelling so you can reach the right audience. Okay, so these women, they choose two media, so to speak. They went to Channels TV. Channels TV, they believe that if they speak there, they'll be able to reach to the National Assembly, right? Then second tool they used was going to National Assembly gate. So if you're not hearing us on TV and radio, if you're passing through the gate, you will see our placards, you will hear our story. Okay, so but don't go to, imagine those women going to the market, going to market space to go and tell their story. The National Assembly may never hear that story. So choosing the right audience of who should listen to your story, which depends on the goal of your story, will help a lot. All right. Then also define your characters very well. Define your character, because your character speaks a lot. So if I'm talking about someone who died because there was medical neglect, for example. So she was pregnant and she went to the hospital for medical checkup and there was neglect. So I need to be able to paint that character very well if I want sympathy, if I want empathy from my audience. So that's why you need to be, we just follows the next point, be intentional. Be intentional about your story, okay? So have clarity of your plot, clarity of your team, have clarity of your characters. Everything must fit in. So it's like a puzzle. They must fit into each other very well, okay? And when you do that, I believe you'll be able to activate empathy, because your story, you must be able to activate empathy in your story and make connection with your audience. So especially when you are not speaking to an audience directly, if it's not an oral presentation, so people are going to read your story, you must be able to make connection. So when people read your story, they should be able to see themselves in your story. Okay, so if you're talking about writing the story about why you are doing what you do, don't come from a privileged background. Don't speak from a privileged place and say, oh, I'm doing this because I have the money, I have the connection. Well, you may be able to connect with everyone with that kind of story. But your story, if I read your story as a rich man, I should be able to connect. If I read your story as a poor man, I should be able to connect, but they may connect at different level. So the rich man may connect in such a way that say, wow, so there are so many people who are not privileged like me, and see reason why he needs to support the people who are not as privileged as him. All right. So if a poor person read your story, you're able to connect from the level that, oh, so this person is just like me or was once like me. Do you get? So that's the essence of storytelling. So these factors I mentioned affect your story. So you could either improve your story, all right? You could either make people support your story or make people just reject your story, not see any reason why they should support your story, okay? So I have an image here, though it's not too clear. I just want to ask what you think about this story. So this is a story, right? Similarly, there are no words to this story, but this image is a story. So I just like to ask, what do you think of this story? What can you make of this story? Please go ahead. Anybody can speak. So do I have to call names? Sheon, do you want to say something?
Okay, I think this is a picture. This is telling a story of a rural community with children who do have access to water. And so this borehole with that woman and the children is more like telling a story of how water has been made available to that community. And so the children are happy and the woman is excited as well. That's the story I can.
Yeah, awesome. So Raymond, your hand is raised. Please go ahead. Hello, Raymond.
Can I say something?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, this is Grace from Calabar. Okay, I see a community that that has had a challenge of pipe bomb water, And then they were identified by development partners, water provided for them, and the locals. You could see school children. So it clearly tells us the challenge that school children used to have, getting water for the family. And then there is a mother there. So the bulk of getting water for the family falls on the shoulders of school children and women. And that is clearly represented here in this picture.
Awesome. Yeah,
So
awesome.
the provision of this pipe-borne water has taken that load, that burden off them, so they could actually be able to face other more productive aspects of their lives.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So does anyone want to say something? Please say something. Yeah, apart from the fact that, yeah, you'll be scored based on your participation, but outside that, just try to connect with what is being discussed, okay? And I really want the guys to speak out as well. No, your audio is bad. I don't know who's speaking, but your audio is bad.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Hi, this is Clementina Oreaku. So building on what has been said, I can clearly see here that, yes, a mother, a woman is benefiting from this water provision, and children are also benefiting. But I can see that this is built materials. I can see bamboo sticks there. These are locally available materials. So that says sustainability. They can easily, if something spoils here, they can easily get it within their community and fix it up and keep it going. So it's affordable for them to keep this going and even replicate this in other parts of their community. So that's what I can see from here.
Yeah, thank you, Clementina. So I like that angle. So it shows that the community also contributed to the project. So the project was not all done by Charity Water, right? So they also contributed, and that shows sustainability plan. Yeah, I like that angle. So anyone else wants something? Please say something. There should be. I think we have up to 10 of you here, or more than 10. So please say something.
Yes, yeah, this is the fellow.
Okay.
So here's what I'm thinking. Looking at this, I found that I thought about this, the ball has just been introduced into the community, and maybe it's just been recently commissioned. And that day happens to be the day they unveiled it, like now we can use water. Obviously, the community must have, looking at the surrounding of the picture, you can see that the community is a rural area, which they don't have access to water, for example, or maybe they usually go to the stream, and then they've started a particular central place. And these people, the children and the mother, happens to be the first benefactor of the water. I mean, it's the first time the water is coming out of the bowl, and then they all had to post like, finally they can see water coming from the bowl. So that's
true.
So it's just like a work has been in progress, and that day happens to be the day it was unveiled, and they were the first one to see the water come out.
True. So there's so much we can take. Just imagine, this is just one picture, and everybody we can all get different perspective. And if I have to add, I would say that, so from the background, it shows that this community, there are farmers in this community because they have land, right? So that means even in dry season, they might be able to get water from this tap to use for their farm. So this water affects everyone. So it affects the homes, family, as you can see from the woman. The water also affects school children. And we know how water will affect school children. So I've been to a community in Abuja, the remote community in Abuja, that you have to cross their stream. So we drove through the stream to get to that community. Now, when it's time for break, children have to go home so they can go and drink water because there's no water in the school. So one of the teachers told us that by the time you tell the children to go home and drink water, to get them back to school is wahala. So they have to go to the community, start ringing bell to say, oh yeah, come back. So you could see how lack of water in the school was disrupting the academic activities. All right, so let's go on. So I'm going to play a short video also. Please, it's a short video, a minute and a few seconds. Please listen and watch all right, attentively, because we're still going to talk about this video, about your story, about this story, how you think the story would impact this organization's fundraising, all right? And especially for those who have not spoken, especially the guys, I don't know why the guys are not talking.
Hello.
So
Hello.
Yes.
This is Justice. So I wanted to say something about the provision of water there.
Okay, let's go ahead. And
Okay,
thank you for rescuing the guys.
Thank you. So I think that there's a ripple effect that it could have on the lifestyle of the people living there. The ripple effect could be seen in different ways. So in terms of lifestyle, there's a constraint in terms of time. So if they were going to a distance to get the water in the first place, if this provision is closer to them, it cuts the expanse of time that they would have spent getting it out from the other source that they may have had. So that time they now have on their side could be used to do something else. So I think that it's important to also observe it from the lifestyle, from the lifestyle changes that could also happen in terms of their health. So now that they have the water closer to them, they can easily get water to drink from that source. And the borehole, if it has a treated feature, could be safer to consume than the other open source area. Although riverine resources, especially flowing water, is quite healthy too. But borehole, I think that borehole makes a healthy alternative to other sources, especially if they do not have clean sources there. So the lifestyle changes that this could have is an impact that is worth mentioning. And of course, if there's a woman there who makes food, or provides for other people to buy and eat, maybe runs a local restaurant service, the equivalent of what we have in urban areas, maybe makes zobo or kunu and the likes. This could aid the business for her. So in terms of lifestyle changes and economic wise for such small businesses, I think it's.
All right. Thank you, Justice. So talking about lifestyle, so let me just ask a quick question. So if this borehole was like the ones we have in our houses in urban areas, so what would have happened? So let's say, for example, this has to be connected to electric, those underground borehole and all that. So would there have been any difference in your opinion about this picture? So let me ask you, Justice.
Okay, if you mean if this had connections to flats, you mean?
No. So talking about lifestyle now, if this borehole was the type we have in our houses in the urban areas, so how would that affect their lifestyle? Let's say the picture now. So
if it's like
the one you press, the one you just put on, and you need the electricity to power it.
Oh, if they needed electricity to power it, I think that would be, it would be nice to have such a provision, but it would also offer some constraints, right? So if there's no electricity, they don't have the water. It's like what, maybe Celestina, if I got it correctly, but she mentioned something about sustainability. I think this is a sustainable alternative to the other sources. So it offers the health benefit in terms of easy access in time, and the ripple effect of converting this use from being a normal use to using it to make products that the rest of the community can afford or purchase to consume. So I think it's also healthy in that sense.
All right, thank you. Because of time, we'll just move ahead. Thank you. Meanwhile, her name is Clementina.
Thank you for the correction, sir.
Okay, all right. So let's watch and listen.
A little girl handed me her report card, and she told me my grades are now better because I get breakfast every morning from the food pantry. And it broke my heart. No kid should have to worry about what they're going to eat before they go to school. My mom had to work 2 and 3 part-time jobs just to make ends meet. And once I started having a family, I didn't want to live that way. I used to work for a cable company. I was out in the city doing a job, and I took a piece of coax through my eye. I lost a significant amount of eyesight, and I was left unemployed. Things took a turn for the worse for us. You have to decide whether you buy groceries or you put money on the light bill. Do you power your house, do you heat your house, or do you put food in your kid's stomach? Some days, me and my wife went without eating just to make sure the kids had enough. One thing you want to never do is be able to not provide for your family. And my wife was just insistent on, you know, yes, you have provided for us for years, but we need help right now. So I used to receive assistance here at the food pantry, and I am now actually a director here. The best thing that happened for me was getting hurt on my job and getting me back to the things that I love to do, and that's helping families. Seeing that light come back on once a family has been broken down, it is an amazing feeling, and there's no paycheck that can compensate for that. Families do fall on hard times. We all could be one paycheck away from being in their situation as well.
All right. So, anybody wants to speak about that story? What did you learn from that message? Yes, if you're lower, your hand is raised.
Oh, my hand is raised. You know, I raised my hand
Oh,
in previous activity. I'm still digesting this.
All right. So anybody else want to speak?
Yeah, so a call came in for me, so I didn't quite get a statement the male character made in the story, but I got the earlier part when he mentioned something about feeding and how children shouldn't have to face the hardship of not having breakfast before going to school, and how that affects academic performance. So I think that's a strong communication in the story about how such thing as breakfast that we in urban areas or in, should I say, middle income areas could easily excuse, can have such a fundamental effect on another person's career projection. So I think that's a strong communication and a strong theme in the story.
All right. Thank you, Justice. Clementina, your hand is raised.
Yes, right. It's a very engaging video. I'd like to call attention to how they started by highlighting a very vulnerable subgroup of the population, children. That grabs your attention as soon as you start watching. Nobody wants their child to, perform poorly because they're not eating properly, right? So that's very engaging. It keeps you wanting to know, so what happens to the child later? Right, and you can see the progress of the story from the child. It builds up to the father. Now, I would like to call everyone's attention to the fact that they highlighted the fact that this man was a provider. So he's not just taking advantage of the system. Oh, there's free food, let's go and take it. There's a reason why he's now unable to provide for his family as he used to, right? And you said something when you were talking about components, key elements of the story, the character. You mentioned something, you said, defend your character. When you're watching this video, you can see it's justifiable that, hey, yeah, this man lost his job because he had an accident at work, and now he can no longer get another job. So it's justifiable. Do you understand? The morals, our moral compass is not ticked in the negative that this one is just free or fair, free food that they're after, right? So we can see how, even though he started out benefiting from that food pantry, he ended up giving back to the food pantry. He now works there. He's a director. So it's no longer just a story to him. He's living this life. So he's much more able to relate to other people who need this help, and how to identify the real people that need the help, not just people that want to come and deplete their stock.
So
that's
true. So I like the word you use. It's talking about progress. So now the NGO, the Feed America NGO, is able to tell the research over that when you help them provide a meal, so you could have ripple effects, future effects for that particular person, because maybe what that person just need to be able to move to the next stage of his or her life is just that one meal they can get from that store. You get. Thank you, Clementina. So we'll move ahead. But okay, and Tony, your hand is raised. So we'll just take that feedback, then we'll move ahead. Please go ahead, Anthony.
All right. All right. Thank you for the opportunity. For me, not just a story, but the fact is, the organization tried to activate empathy and connect to the emotion of the audience, the viewers, and that's actually the reason for storytelling, so that when you connect with people's emotion, they won't even know when they will dip their hands into their pockets to give out something. So that is it for me. Lovely video, lovely concept.
All right, thank you. I think you are very right. So I mentioned that earlier. So your story, imagine. So that story, I think they have had over 1 million views on YouTube. So imagine story, we don't even know when they produced that video and all that, but every time you watch the video, you could easily empathize with, apart from the character in the story, but you can imagine people who are in that same kind of condition, not able to feed. You can imagine them, so you're able to build that scenario in your mind and wishing you could help as well and be able to tell the story someday. Oh, I helped this person and look at what this person is now. All right.